For those of you that are here, welcome. This is a demo for Stocklabs. It's kind of a newer platform that Fly came out with from iBankCoin, and a lot of it is data. And then also, like I was starting to talk about, there are algorithms that run on here that will generate certain signals or have methods for you to filter through different stocks, ETFs, crypto, whatever, for finding trades. But I'm going to kind of go through some of the main things at first pretty quick, and then I'll let you guys sort of jump in with any questions or feedback that you want more clarity on. So this is the sort of the main market page, obviously the overview page. And from this page, you'll be able to kind of get a read on what the market's doing that day or over the last several days very quickly. So across the top here, these are custom indices by market cap, and they're rebalanced pretty often. It's not just market cap, but there are a couple other volume filters and stuff like that. So pennies is 250 stocks, small caps is 250 stocks, and mega caps and terra caps are 50, or mega caps might be 100 and terra caps is 50. So it's kind of like the most actively traded, you can think of it as the most actively traded stocks in these cap ranges. And we kind of consider that a pretty good representation of that slice of the market. Now, if you click on any one of these, you can pull up the actual constituents that make up this index. And then, so these won't be the same. A lot of, like for something like mega caps, a lot of them will stay the same most days, but they will shuffle around if things don't meet the parameters for being in the index. So the same thing for all of these. And actually, now that I clicked on this, I think this is 200. This is 200 stocks. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. No, it's 50. Okay. Okay. So those are the market cap breakdowns. Now across the middle, this OBOS, this is overbought, oversold. This is kind of the main algorithm that runs on the market all the time. And it's kind of the most important algorithm that we have for judging whether the market is sort of at an in a valley or kind of peaking out. Now, everything receives a fundamental score, a technical score, and a hybrid score. The hybrid score is a combination of the tech score and the fundamental score. So hybrid score is about 70% technical score and 30% fundamental score. What this will show you, this is the oscillator, this white line. So these are I'm on hybrid right now. If I click on tech, it looks similar, but it will be different, especially when it comes to these actual thresholds. But just to stay on hybrid for now, this will show you the oscillator each day, and then the thresholds for overbought or oversold are recalculated every day as well. So over time, these thresholds will drift a little bit depending on the overall sort of market action. Now, when the oscillator closes the day below, say, the oversold line or above the overbought line, that is what generates a signal. So sometimes, this oscillator will dip down below or above the threshold, but it might close the day back above it, which doesn't count for us for being oversold. So the signal has to close over, the market has to close with an oversold signal for it to be valid. Now, once you have a signal, you can see the statistics for that signal. We'll back test, we have all these back tested. So on the hybrid side here, So this is 12-month, which I'll talk about this. This is 12-month oversold signal. These would be the returns that we would sort of expect coming out of that signal based on what that has produced in the past. The 12-month, that's the 12-month signal, 6-month signal, 3-month signal, 10-year, 20, whatever. This time frame, this is the amount of data that Stocklabs is using to generate these thresholds. So if you only use 3 months of data, see here, like overbought is at 2.87. If I use 12 months of data, it's a higher threshold for being overbought here. And sort of the same pattern goes with oversold. So 12-month oversold is 2.14. 3-month oversold is 2.18. So it's close, but not exact. And obviously the bigger, if you choose something like 20 years, it would be a very significant event if this actually got to this point. So let me see, do we have any? We don't have any 20-year oversolds in the last 10 years. 10-year oversold, we have a couple. So it's good that you guys are here today, because we had one of these back at the COVID bottom, and we had another one the other day, so 2 days ago. So this means that using 10 years of sample data, market sample data, then Stocklabs said that the market is oversold based on the amount of stress that was generated in the market on this day, and that matched the COVID, toward the COVID lows. So it's not saying that. So again, it's not saying that we, this is like going to produce a similar rally. I mean, because obviously we rallied for like not 2 years, but a year and a half off this COVID bottom, because we only really back test. We only give you, we only keep track, 10 days forward from when these signals generate. But just in your mind, you can know the severity of what that oversold signal sort of, how it compared to prior events. And you can see, so like 3-month is the oversold threshold is not as strict on when it considers it oversold. So you have a lot of these on 3-month. But now if you go to 6-month, okay, I think that's the same, but 12-month, okay, there's one less, and 10-year, there's only one, because this blue line has moved across all those timeframes based on the sample data. Okay. Same thing for tech score. This is kind of a matter of preference, whether you prefer hybrid score or tech score. A lot of people just rely on tech score. It's kind of a faster moving oscillator. The hybrid score, like I said, it includes this fundamental score. So the hybrid score is a bit anchored by this, because the fundamental score doesn't change that much. You can sort of see it's in this 3.6, it's holding sort of this 3.6 range for a while. But I tend to rely on hybrid score more than anything, just because I like the idea of having some sort of fundamental backdrop involved in the decision making. So that's overbought, oversold. It measures stress points in the market, and the sample period you use will determine how severe of a stress point you're looking for. Now, like I said before, this only generates signals when you actually get a close below this oversold line or above the overbought line. If you want to know sort of, say I just want to know what are the forward returns for just this market score, because we have the market score. So I don't care about, right, I can say I don't care about whether it's overbought or oversold. I just want to know last time the market had this score, what were the, what happened next? And that is what, so for the overbought, oversold statistics, I went to this tab. For the real time statistics, I just stay on this real-time tab. And now this will tell you for this market score, this is the score we have right now. This is what happened over the next 10 days. So you can backtest this across different time periods. And then this granularity tab gives you a little flexibility on the tolerance that Stocklabs is using. So it doesn't have to be exactly 2.29. If I'm on granularity 1/10, that means I'm looking at any market score that was 2.19 to 2.39, so plus or minus the granularity. And then, so any score in that range, I will consider for this table of backtest data. So we have 27 data points where the market had a score of 2.19 to 2.39, because we're plus or minus 1/10. If I ratchet this down to 500ths, so now it's looking for 2.24 to 2.34. And you can see there's a different number of data points because we narrowed the range of scores that Stocklabs will look at to consider for the backtest. And actually, you see this score just changed during the day. So these scores all change live based on the market action, obviously. If you widen this, you'll get a lot more data points, right? So this is 108 data points for what did I do? 0.25. So this is 2.04 to 2.54. So bigger the range, more data points, which means that, you know, it's kind of a balance depending on what you're trying to determine. The default is 1/10 because we say that, you know, based on how these scores generally move, if you're in this range by 1/10, then okay, it's good enough. But there may be times where you want to just know, okay, I want to know really close to like what is the score and what has come out of it before. So again, the only difference for real time versus overbought oversold, you know, you produce the same data table, the same back tests, you can back test the same time frames, but the real time is not relying on crossing any sort of threshold. It's just giving you the backtest data for the current score that the market has. And there's obviously, this is the hybrid side, so I've been focusing on hybrid, but it's the same thing for the tech side too. Okay. So that's overbought oversold, and the real time is just, we call it intelligence. So that's all the statistics are housed under this intelligence tab. Across the middle, these are general market stats for just overall. So you'll have, you know, aggregated data for earnings, revenue, cash. There's some technical things toward the end, above 200-day, above 50-day, above 200-day. We'll give you how many IPOs came out, 52-week highs, 52-week lows, things like that. So it's just a quick reference for finding some data. Now, sectors across the middle, aside from slicing the market up by market cap, obviously, sometimes people are more interested in particular industries or whatever. So we have all of that as well. So we have these 8 sectors: materials, consumer, financial, healthcare, industrial services, tech, and utilities. And this table data here will show you, these are some of the primary tools that Stocklabs has. So these I will talk about when we get to the screener section, but this table here is just for you to see at a glance on this page some of the things that are moving. All these columns, you can sort them, or, you know, whatever you want to do. You can add filters to them and things like that. So Sharpe ratios, breadth, we have all of that stuff. And then across at the very bottom, these are custom indices. So Fly generally makes these whenever a kind of particular group of stocks is of interest, depending on a theme that is developing or something like that. So you can see, so for instance, we have this COVID-19 basket that got made back when COVID was, an issue that the market was dealing with and sort of in the news all the time, driving the day-to-day action, and kind of based on things that were happening in this basket, you could find trades or incorporate certain things into strategies you were doing. So there are some things are based on fundamentals, others are just based on general themes. So yeah, like this Risk-Averse Index, these are and clicking on any one of them, same thing, you see the stocks that are in it. These are stocks that would generally do better when the market is risk off, which the market has been risk off all, a while. You can see that as choppy as, say, like the Nasdaq has been over the last month or so, this index has done pretty well. Actually, it's coming off a little bit here. The last week, a little bit more than a week. But you have all this. So across the top, market cap breakdowns. Right here, front and center, primary algo on the market, hybrid scores, tech scores, market stats, sectors, and indices. So this is like just the main floor page that you'll see. The algo page, this has the same data as this chart, except it's in table form. So you can sort of scroll through and get more precise, more precise numbers on periods that you're looking at. And same thing, you can look at, so these are like 12-month, there's a tech column, hybrid column. The blues are oversold. And if I can find a red, that will be overbought. I think we had, yeah, so reds are overbought. But it's the same thing. It's the same chart here that is on the other page, but you have the table data. Seasonality is, a lot of people find this useful or popular among people. They just kind of want to know what trends are in the market based on certain intervals of time, like a lot of times by month. I'll show you on individual stocks, we have more precise breakdowns of seasonality where we can find returns by the hour. So which hours of the day are best for either the market or a particular stock or whatever. Some stocks will, say if I would look at, I'll just do it now. So we'll look at the Nasdaq seasonality. And so this is by month. I can look at by day of the week. And I can adjust the time period, but I'll just go all the way down to hourly. And I want this year, let's do this month. So April 1st to April 29th. So these are the returns by hour of the day for the Qs. Now it's been a bad month, so a lot of times, the market has trended down most of the day, but you could see the pattern for this month has been that the open gets sold. So these are all red for the opening hours of the day. And you get like a little bit of a retracement during the sort of midday lull session, and then the close gets dumped again. So that's been the pattern all month, really. And these are pretty, these have been pretty reliable, especially toward the end of the day. So that's seasonality. This is, again, just seasonality on the overall market. It goes back 30 years here. And actually the seasonality for individual tickers will just go back for the life of, you could look back for the life of the stock. So like if, I don't know, some Dow component has been around for 50 years, then that'll all be in there. Intelligence, we kind of went back and forth with this. Financials, this is more fundamental data. So for the overall market, kind of that strip across the middle that had the statistics, you can see the trends for those some of those individual components over time aggregated. So these are revenues overall. This is obviously low because the most recent quarter isn't all the way reported. So you'll see that here. So we're 10% reported for Q1. As this fills out, this last bar will go somewhere. It'll go up. But same thing, earnings, let's see, margins, kind of important things. And there will be more fields than this on an individual stock's financials. So there will be other fields that you can look at. Earnings, this is just an earnings calendar, pretty self-explanatory. You can just click through which days you want to look for. I mean, some people are pretty active with trying to trade earnings releases just because, I don't know, sometimes they think they have an edge or whatever. And the intelligence screener, this will let you screen through individual stocks based on their market scores. So in the same way that the overall market receives this fundamental tech and hybrid score every day, every single stock also has its own hybrid score, its own tech score, its own fundamental score, and you're able to screen through those to see which ones, it'll just bring to the front which ones, okay, based on their scores right now, which ones are slated for good returns, essentially. And you can just adjust I can adjust the returns. So say I only want stocks that have returned over 5%. And I need to have I want more than 6 total data points. Okay, so this would be the list. But this intelligence screener exists here, but the more robust screener is, once I get to the screener page, I'll talk about that. News, this is the news feed. It's all real time. It's basically curated by the Fly, basically curated a bunch of the best, I say best, but this news feed is strictly market related. There's not going to be any nonsense about anything else crowding it up. So like if you're on Twitter and you're following a bunch of stuff, your feed can get clogged up with things that aren't market related. So one of your followers is posting a bunch of memes or something like that. But if you come here, this will only have market related news. And another thing is that down here at the bottom, if you see where I'm clicking, there's this little arrow here. This will dock sort of the news feed, and it'll just follow you around on any other pages you're on, where it'll give you, you'll just see the top 3 most recent news items, no matter what page you're on. So I can be on any page and it'll follow me around. I generally keep this minimized, and then sometimes I'll just keep this news page open on another screen just to have the whole thing. But you do have the option of just having it docked on the bottom of your screen there. Industries, this is a more blown up version of the market overview section that had the sectors. So this is, you see the same headers here, and you can look at the returns over a bunch of different time frames. So 1 day, 1 week, 2 week, week to date, month to date, year to date. So if I go week to date, okay, bad week for healthcare, bad week for utilities. I mean, not a great week for mostly anything, but those were the worst. And then in the panel down here, this will show all of the subcategories that are across all of these major headers, and the sector will just be designated by which by the abbreviation. So there's tech, there's financials, and anything. So if I only want to see financials, these are all the subcategories within financials, and then I can do anything with these via these columns, sort them, or say I only want Sharpe ratios greater than, let's just say 1. So it'll reduce the data set more. You can sort of play around with this any way you want to narrow down things you're trying to find. Okay, screener. This, next to the market overview, you'll use the most probably day to day, just for finding ideas. We have some ready-made screens here. Fly made these. He uses most of these all the time. So people are always wondering, how does Fly find trades, or like, where did he even get this from? He's usually using one of these screens. So these are available to use the same exact tools that he's using. So I'm going to click through some of them just to highlight some of the individual components that are unique to Stocklabs versus screeners that you'll find at basically any other service. So this screen is top rated and very high volume. This vol is volume delta. So volume delta is this VD column. And what it's doing is it's taking the current volume of the day. It's seeing it's prorating it, and based on the pace that the volume is accumulating that day, it will prorate it out to a full day's volume. And on that full day's, that extrapolated value, it'll compare it to the past 30 days. So that was a lot of words, but what's happening is if a stock normally trades 1 million shares a day, and at 11 o'clock in the morning, it's on pace to trade 3 million shares that day. Volume delta will take that 3 million that it's on pace to trade and compare it to the 1 million that it usually trades. And it'll say VD is plus 200%, because 3 million is 200% more than 1 million. So this will help identify stocks that are moving on exaggerated volume. And you're able to combine this with other screen parameters to find trades that will hopefully be high percentage, a higher percentage of, they'll have a higher percentage chance of being a winning trade or a profitable trade. So for this screen, he's looking for stocks that are on pace to trade over 100% of their normal volume, so double. And he wants them to be within 3% of high a day. So they're not just on volume, it's not just trading on volume, it could be down on volume. It's stocks that are trading up and they're near their highs on volume. And then the tech score, he has between 3 and 4, and it has to have a certain volume, and he wants it to be up a certain amount on the day, like for the session. Let me see these other ones. Okay, these other columns are on here, but you can see since there's no blue on it, it's not being used as a filter. It's just here as data. This percent change is the change in the stock over the designated time period. So this exists for anything from 30 seconds to 30 minutes. So how much has the stock changed in the last 30 seconds? How much has the stock changed in the last 5 minutes? How much has the stock changed in the last 15 minutes, and so on? So you can use those. You can use this percent change if you want to filter by it to find things that are actively moving. So maybe a stock is down, maybe a stock's down 10% on the day, Amazon or something today, but you're running some kind of percent change screener, and Amazon pops up because it just jumped 3% in the last 5 minutes, which is a big move, especially for a stock that large. So that would be something that you could key in on, and potentially depending on other things that are in your decision-making process, it might be a trade that you're interested in. But you're able to identify these things that are moving over smaller intervals than just the day. Okay, the stock is up 5% today. Okay, but has it moved in the last 3 hours? Like maybe not. This will tell you if the stock is actively moving over these smaller time frames. And it'll bring them to your attention right away. So one thing that I have to mention alongside these tools is that these tools work with this live functionality on the screener. So if I turn this off, this live setting, the data in the table will still change. What will not change is the result set of the table or the order of the stocks based on whatever you're sorting by. So you can see right now, these numbers are sort of flashing when they change, but you're not seeing any more of those green or red arrows. You're not seeing any lines in blue. So if there's a line in blue, the stock just appeared on the screen. So it just met the criteria of the screen, and Stocklabs went and found it and put it right in front of you. The stock, if it has a green arrow, it's been on the list, but now it's moving up the order based on whatever you're sorting by. Same thing for red arrows, stock is moving down the list. So if I turn this back on and just give it a sec, hopefully it will kick back on with our, yeah, so okay, this stock just entered the list. You see these stocks are moving up the list, this stock is moving down the list, and this will just go on and update live with screener results without you having to refresh the screen or anything. If you're not on live, to get new results, you'll have to refresh the screen because you'll have to get the new data set manually. Okay, so that's volume delta, percent change. We have another volume tool called VSA. So you see VD is here, but it's not being used as a filter, it's just here. And then VSA, in this case, is being used as a filter. So VSA exists for multiple time frames. So volume surge analyzer, there is 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, and 1 minute, very, very fast. Volume surge analyzer is slightly different than volume delta, because remember I said volume delta is taking the current day's volume, extrapolating it to a full day and making its comparison to the usual. Volume surge is taking the current interval that you're looking at. So in this case, it's looking at the current 5 minutes, current 5 minute candle, and comparing it to the past 30 of that interval. So it's comparing the current 5 minute candle, in this case, to the past 30 5-minute candles. If I look at 15 minute, here, this is looking at the current 15-minute candle and comparing it to the past 30 15-minute candles. So everything is by the interval that you've chosen. And this is just another tool for identifying stocks that are seeing spikes in volume in the very immediate term. So in the last 5 minutes, this stock, okay, this is a nonsense stock. These are like some warrants or something. I can just get rid of them. And okay, let me just add some filters to see some realer. So let's do things that are over $1 billion for now. Okay. First Solar, I think it had earnings last night or something like that. So, I mean, it's not surprising that it's trading a little heavily volume-wise just for the whole day probably. But in the last 5 minutes, okay, it just disappeared off the screen because the screen updates live. Let me just freeze this so I can stay on one ticker for a little bit. GTLS, bad example. It's red. Las Vegas Sands. Okay, in the last 5 minutes, this stock has traded 140% of the volume that it usually trades per 5 minutes, is what this is saying. And the number just changed. So you can see, like, as time goes by, these calculations are constantly happening. So that's why you're having the screen update live, where you want your stocks to sort of stay on these volume screens. Basically, if they just flash on and flash off, then okay, so First Solar's back, trading 180% volume in the last 5 minutes that it usually trades per 5 minutes. These volume tools you'll usually combine with other parameters. So like this is again being combined with, there's a high a day filter on here. So stocks that are sort of near their highs within 5% of high a day, and the column's sorted by high a day. So stocks that are up on, that are, you know, seeing volume spikes at high a day is what's going to be at the top of this list based on how it's set up, based on how this screen is set up. He also has a percent change filter on here. So the stock has to be up in the last 5 minutes over 0%. So this is stocks pressing high a day, and they're moving up into and through high a day on volume, is what this is saying in general terms. Let me just pause. Does anyone have questions on the volume tools and screener, or the percent change stuff, or actually any questions? Like, oh, I sort of missed some of these things in chat. Okay.
I have a question. The percent high, you keep saying, you calling it percent a high. Is that the percent high of the day, or within like the percent high of a 52-week average? Or can you
this
go over?
This one is for high a day. So you can look for 50. So if I search, so right now we have percent from session high. Now you can do percent from 52-week high. This would be like if you were doing things on a little bit longer term than just a day, then you might want to know how far something is from 52-week highs. Or if you want to know how far it is from all-time highs, you know, you can add that. But yeah, this one in this case is the session high. So you wanted to, so this screen wants to know stocks that are within 5% of their session high. And usually you're probably wanting things that are even closer to high a day than 5%. So that's why the column is sorted by this this value. So the ones, if something is like, if it's 0% from high a day, that means it's at high a day. If it's, okay, this one is 2% off high a day. Does that make sense how that is interpreted?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you now. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the session. This is a session high. The 52-week high or all-time high, or percent off 52-week high or percent off all-time high are other parameters you could add to another screen that you would make or anything like that. Okay, let me look at these chat questions. What are the differences between hybrid score, tech score, and fundamental score? How are they calculated? Are they something similar to RSI, slow stochastic, etc.? Okay, let me go to an individual ticker. So for Amazon here, for instance, you could see hybrid score is kind of similar to what the overall market was, but it doesn't have to be at all. Remember that the overall market was something like 2.29 or 2.28 when we were looking at it. Okay, 2.25 now, so we're kind of softening up here. Okay, so 2.19 is the current Amazon score. Fundamental score is pretty high, so 4.34. That's a solid score. Technical score is really poor. Okay, so Amazon is not traded well. And you can see for an individual stock, some of the parameters that go into making the calculation. So volume is an input, volatility is an input, relative strength is an input, and this isn't necessarily RSI like that you would see on a trading view chart or something. This is the definitions are here. So relative strength in this is basically how close it is to 52-week highs. Price performance is kind of just the general trend, and accumulation distribution is stock. This is sort of if a stock is consistently closing near the high a day, so like it opens at one price and closes higher, and that high is near high a day, then we consider that as being under accumulation, versus stocks that open one place and then are consistently closing lower, they'll be considered as being under distribution rather than accumulation. So Amazon has had a lot of days where it's closed lower than where it opened, so it's got a bad accumulation distribution score, for instance, in this case. Fundamentals, you have all the definitions for these inputs as well. And like I said this at the beginning, the hybrid score is just a combination of fundamental score and technical score. So the technical score makes up about 70% of the hybrid score, and the rest is the fundamental score. So this hybrid score will always be some number between these two scores. This is an individual stock. The overall market, there are some other inputs that we don't show on here, but for say like the parameters that go into say tech and fundamental scores, things like bond yields, forex moves, commodity moves in those actual commodity markets, and other derivative markets will get factored into these overall market scores. So that's why I say that the overall, this main page with this OBOS, overbought, oversold, is kind of like the mother algorithm for everything else. Kind of like if this signal fires, then it kind of trumps, something that you might see on an individual ticker. Now, a lot of times, some of the major components of the stock market, like say like Amazon or Google or Apple or some of these very large stocks, they may be close to, they may give signals very close in time, like maybe a day or two apart from the overall market, because those stocks trade alongside the market, for the most part. But everything is, at the end of the day, calculated on its own. So the individual, Amazon could read oversold when the market isn't oversold, and the market could read oversold when Amazon is not, for instance. So they're not explicitly linked. It's just based on who this stock is. In this case, a very large TerraCap tech stock, it's going to drift along the same path almost as the market. So those are the calculations for tech and hybrid. Okay, in Fly's tweet, he says users are able to see how he buys and sells stocks. How can I see them in Stocklabs? Okay, I mentioned that Fly uses a lot of these screens to find stocks, but some people don't even want to do, don't even want to look at the screens. They just want to say, okay, I just want to know when Fly trades something. So that will show up in these notifications. And I'll get to portfolios in a second, but your notifications will be populated with changes that are made to portfolios that you're following. So I'm following Fly's holdings, which means that when he makes a change in his portfolio, I'll get a notification about it. Now, this won't be the only place that you get a notification about it. People that are subscribers have access to a private Twitter feed that you can use if you just want, like if you're not going to be in front of your screen all day, but you might want to get a notification on your phone. At the same time that this gets updated, this notification gets updated, it also is pushed to the Twitter account, and all that Twitter account does is post like bought Apple or bought Amazon, sold Apple, sold Amazon. It's there's no other content on that account, so you can just set that account to push notifications to your mobile, and you'll know when Fly made some sort of trade. Okay, portfolios here, like I mentioned, you can follow other people's portfolios, and then any portfolio, if any one of these people makes a trade in a portfolio that I'm following, it'll show up in my notifications. So actually, you can see the last one is a day ago from the Fly, because he's on vacation right now. But normally, I can tell you that Fly trades about, he might make 30 trades in a day or something like that. Now, not everyone is that active, obviously, but you will have all the information about what is happening. Actually, we can look at it. So if I look at, okay, month to date, down 2%. Week to date, okay, gave it up this week. Trades, all the trades are cataloged here with the return for each actual trade. So the breakdown will give you the trend over time. Actually, there's not going to be 5 years because this isn't old enough, but okay, this is a year and a half. So pretty good over a year and a half. This account went from 100 grand to 600 grand. And returns, same thing. It's just a table that shows you by month the returns. So most months green, couple out. Actually, this is the first, well, there's been a couple down months, but first down month since January, but the last 2 months were pretty good. So not giving much back from the last 2 months. Watch lists look the same as sort of the portfolios list, but you can just dump sort of anything that you want to keep an eye on here, and however you're managing your watch list. I'll show you from Screener. You can directly save. Okay, let me just go to one of my screens. Okay, let's go to this quant screen. Now, if I just want to store these, all these results, how many is on here? 21 stocks. This freeze button up here will send this screen to send the results to my watch list. So that's this, and I can rename it to something that is more useful. So now I'll have, because the screens change all the time. If I like the result set from particular screen at some point, I can always just save the entire thing to revisit at another time. Oh, one thing that I failed to mention when I was going through all of these volume tools and all of these sort of different features. So the live functionality that you basically have to use with the volume tools, these are included under the pro tier of the subscriptions. Same goes for the real-time intelligence is part of pro. Basic will have everything else, and everybody has access to this main algorithm, this overbought oversold algorithm. But intelligence, volume tools, and live functionality on screens is exclusively for pro. Screener search is another way to search through sort of different events. You can think of it like that. So I'm going to uncheck Pelican Room. Pelican Room is the chat room, which a lot of active members go into and bounce ideas off each other, or just talk trash to each other, or talk about the latest whatever in the news. So I don't want any results that are going to come out of mentions in there for now. And I'm going to actually take off company profiles too. So I can search through the general news for stocks that are related to particular keywords. So say when a new event becomes sort of relevant to the market, people will, you're going to want to know what stocks, it's like, oh, this happened. Okay, what stock do I need to buy? Well, to find a potential list, you could come in here, type whatever keywords you want, that are associated with that theme, and the stocks will populate the list. So it'll basically dump out stocks that have had press releases or articles, or articles mentioning them or anything like that that are related to the keywords that you're using. So in the past, we used this a lot during COVID because there were, say, biotech companies that would announce, hey, I'm working on whatever, I'm working on a treatment, or I'm working on a vaccine, or I'm working on, I'm increasing my mask output, or whatever, like any type of thing related to the theme, we could isolate in on with particular keywords and have those stocks sort of put right in front of us instead of, starting from scratch and figuring out, okay, what's related to this. So in this case, trying to think if there's something current. We can try searching something with the war. Not sure if there's anything. I don't think there's anything like that immediate with that. But yeah, when there's something topical that is relevant, you'll be able to search through the news with those keywords to isolate those stocks. Now, if there's not something current, say you can search through company profiles and just say, I want stocks that do whatever. Let's see. Masks. So, okay, this isn't refined enough. Let's see. Let's just search COVID. I've used COVID in a bunch of previous examples, but okay, so these are stocks that in their company profile, they have something COVID related. So if you're looking for, like, say something happens and you want a pure play on whatever it is, you can search through profiles of companies, and that's the company themselves saying, we do this, or we, have a solution for this, or we're working on a solution for whatever it is you're looking for. So that's screener. Yeah, that's screener search. Again, there's live functionality on this screen. So if there is something fast moving in the news, say there are a lot of headlines hitting and things like that, okay, stock just, company just came out, said this, as soon as that news hit, it would pop up in this screen. If I was searching by news, not company profile. So let me see here in the chat. Okay, we covered how fly trades, where they come from. Will it screen commodities as well as stocks? So the best thing for commodities right now is we kind of just use the commodity ETFs as proxies. The only place that I think the actual, say, like commodities futures markets might come into play are like when I talked about there are these other parameters that go into the market score. So like if bonds are down, like if like the 10-year note is down like 10% for the year or something like that could be a factor for this. Or if oil is up 40% this year, like it is, that is getting factored in here. But in the screener that you will use, you'll basically just screen through ETFs of commodities if you're interested in those. Same thing for Forex. Like you have like FXE is like the euro or whatever, whatever sort of the iShares ETFs are for those. Let me see. I'll go to. Oh, I just saw it. I was just going to see if one of the commodities popped up on here. But say, for instance, in this, I'm screening stocks based on their tech score, if they're, what their returns are based on the real-time score. And I'm filtering by ETFs. So this kind of gives me a little bit of insight into what sectors might be about to trend or pop or pop. And yeah, this is like one example, but are there any other questions? I know I went on a little longer than I wanted to. So if people have to get out of here, then that's fine. But if you have questions, just fire them off now, because yeah, no problem. I'm gonna put because we also have like if you sign up, I'm not just gonna turn you loose, and well, I will, but I'm not just gonna leave you hanging out to dry to figure out all this stuff all over again, because I know there's a lot of information to take in at once. I would be basically your resource for teaching you anything or showing you anything on the platform that you're trying to find, or if you're saying like, hey, I'm trying to build a screen that does this, I don't know how to do it, I will walk you through that sort of stuff. Basically any sort of questions like that you have platform related, I can handle for you. I'm going to put in the chat some things I have up on our YouTube channel as tutorials. I also put like market recaps for the week on there. I also recap things about Fly's portfolios, just simple stuff like that, where you can sort of see how I click through screens and sort of make click through different menus and screens and sort of make determinations about the market. There's also a FAQ that we have with written out stuff. That's this help menu here down in the bottom left. So there will be resources once, if you're a subscriber, that you're not just going to be left to figure out all this stuff on your own. News about a specific stock. Can you search news about a specific news at a specific date range? Yes. I forgot to mention the date range. So if same thing on this screener search, if I'm on news and I'm searching by keyword or whatever, let's just go back to this. So this in the top right, anytime, past 24 hours, past week, past month. So if I say past 24 hours, what is this? I mean, this keyword isn't great. So if we had a good topic to search by, we could show some more relevant results. But yeah, the time frame is here. So if you say anytime, then it's like ever. But if you say I want stuff in the past day or the past week, then the results set will represent that. Any other questions from the crowd? You can always email me too. Like if you think of something later or whatever, I'm pretty good about. I'll get back to you like within the same day at some point. I'm gonna put this is so you're if you're in this call, then you obviously got the invite email. There's a join link at the bottom of that email. I'm also going to post it here just in case people are looking for it straight up. That will have the information about planned pricings. I already talked about all of the volume tools and the live screens and the real-time intelligence features are exclusive to Pro. There are a couple other things like Basic will have limits on how many watch lists and portfolios you can create. Pro will be unlimited, unlimited everything. But yeah, so if there's no other questions, then I will let you guys get back to the rest of your day. I know probably some of you are on lunch break or something like that. So thanks for taking the time to join. And yeah, I look forward to, if you guys sign up, I'll spend some more time with you guys on individual basis to show you some other things. But yeah, this is a general overview, so you kind of get the idea of what you'd be looking at. So last call for any questions, and if not, I'm just gonna end the meeting and let you guys get on your way. Okay, so that's it then. See you guys around, and talk to you later. Bye.